Hello, my name is Michaela Biro, and this is my presentation on the role of the library technician for Information 101. I have chosen a part-time library position for School Library Tech at the Parkland School Division, number 70 in Spruce Grove, Alberta. To the right are screenshots from the posting condensed into sections relevant to the presentation. The reason I chose this posting is because this school division is within a decent range of Edmonton, just over a half an hour drive. Although I can be flexible with location, I prefer to stay close to or within Edmonton if possible. The pay rate is between $19 and $24 an hour, which I found a fair rate for someone with less experience in the field and could be supplemented with a secondary library job. Lastly, I chose the school library posting because I know that supporting students in their studies can leave an impact on students, whether that is helping them develop or continue their interests, helping them look for part-time work, or whatever other research they may be doing. Here are a few professional skills from the job posting. The first is reading, writing, and oral communication skills. The second is the level of literacy intervention program. And the third is driver's license / first aid certification. I would like to touch on the level of literacy intervention program skills and the driver's license and first aid certification skills. Although the LLI information was found in the experience section, I believe that the knowledge and ability to facilitate the LLI program could be considered a professional skill because it is a measurable ability that an individual can take a course or study on, so not a soft skill. The driver's license and first aid certification skills are found in the skills section of the posting. I decided to include them because they can be important for many situations, particular to a library tech that we might not always think about and which can be studied and tested on. Here we have a set of personal skills from the posting. These include taking direction in independent work, flexibility, patience, and creativity, and lastly, a sense of humor. Since the library staff appears limited, potentially with only one or no librarian on duty, being able to take direction from superiors and work on tasks alone is important. The point on flexibility, patience, and creativity also listed sensitivity and tolerance in the job posting. This and sense of humor rely on the hire's emotional intelligence and, in many ways, intuition in order to effectively create relationships with students and staff alike. These types of skills help library techs get through the operations of the day, as well as any issues that might arise, unexpected interruptions to workflow, or requests from students or staff that might take longer to complete. The mindset of patience, creativity, or humor might be handy. While reading through the posting, there are a few points that I felt I had ability or interest in to effectively work in this environment. The first being reading, writing, and oral application. The second, the LLI program. And the third, taking direction or independent work. As for reading, writing, and oral application, although some of these communicative skills may be tedious, I find comprehensive writing to express ideas or communicate effectively to be satisfying. Also, while I have not published any work, I feel confident in my writing and reading skills because of my background in post-secondary English. Furthermore, I love to speak on subjects that are of interest and advocate for them. As to the LLI program, this job posting is the first time I have come across this program, so I do not have much knowledge about its procedures. However, I think I could apply some of what I've learned in Computer 104 as well as my own literacy skills to successfully participate in and facilitate the program. I love to learn new subjects and techniques, so it seems like a good opportunity for me to grow as well. As for taking direction and independent work, I'm good at following directions or instructions, whether this be at work, school, or volunteering. It's necessary for satisfactorily completing coursework, so I'm comfortable with this skill. Most of my assignments in school have been completed independently, and at my job I complete work both independently and with coworkers. Although there are many points I felt confident about, a couple points were not within my current interests or abilities. This includes the driver's license / first aid, as well as the emotional and mental stress of school setting. As for the driver's license / first aid, I do not have a first aid certification or a driver's license. I hope to earn my driver's license before I graduate, as I have my learners, but I'm a bit apprehensive about driving and have had some difficulty being able to practice. Earning a first aid certificate seems less daunting, but it is a skill I am more neutral in learning because I find it less stimulating. So the emotional and mental stress of school setting. I have not worked in a school environment before, and while I have worked around children before, I have not been expected to build relationships with them or to listen to any personal problems they might have. I hope that I can be professional and empathetic towards them. I am certain that I will learn more about this potential aspect of the library at a later time in the LIT program. To learn more about the skills required in school libraries, I interviewed Julianne Johnson, a graduate of MacEwan's LIT program in current library tech in Red Deer, Alberta. The first question I asked Johnson was how she decided to work in a school library. Johnson told me that she came across an ad for her current position. Johnson was not specifically looking to work in school libraries during her program. In fact, she shared that she prefers not to work with children in general. It was only once she graduated and came across a job ad online that she decided to go into this type of library, since a high school environment is different from an elementary or junior high environment. Additionally, Johnson had family nearby, which made the decision to move easier for her. The second question I asked Johnson was how she got the job. The basic steps were that she received phone calls, scheduled an interview, and prepared for this interview. The principal conducted this interview and asked her general questions. And an outline of what stood out was her LIT program diploma, her youth with new ideas, and her ability in technology. After applying for the position, Johnson stated that the hiring process began with a phone call from the school expressing interest in her as a potential hire. Interview was scheduled for time which worked for both parties. Johnson was expected to be interviewed by a librarian, so she prepared for the types of specific questions a librarian might ask her. However, she was instead interviewed by the principal only. In large cities, a school library tech will be interviewed by the librarian or senior staff, the principal, and the vice principal. Thus, the questions she received were general in nature and did not include terms common in the library field. Johnson believes that having her LIT certification gave her an advantage over other candidates, of whom only one had an LIT diploma. The other candidates were EAs or those already in the school district. The person who previously held Johnson's position was an older individual who was stuck in her ways of conducting the library, less willing to make updates or try out new ideas. Johnson impressed the principal with her ideas to reinvent the space, modernizing it and making it more friendly for students. She also discussed ideas for displays in a reference center. Since the person who previously held her position was also willing to make technological updates for the library, the principal was also looking for someone who was willing to make such technologically advanced changes. The next question I asked Johnson was what was invigorating or motivating about her work at the library. She shared that the influence on future generations, her role as an educator or even a counselor, and the independence of high school students were the highlights of her work. Johnson discussed with me how, when one works at a high school library, one feels that they are truly contributing to the development of future generations, those who are shortly entering the adult world, which she explained is a rewarding experience. Johnson also claimed that in this setting, library staff will actually feel that they are helping others, where in some settings that might not be the case. In a school library, library staff will also take on the role of educator, which Johnson cited as another personal benefit to working in this environment. Furthermore, she asserted that the educator role went beyond that role into the role of a counselor. As library staff build relationships with students and learn more about them, students will in turn share details about their lives and potentially confide in library staff. Since library staff are not seen as teachers and therefore do not instruct students on what material they should be consuming, the dynamic is also different and more rewarding in some ways. When prompted, Johnson also shared that a library staff's youth can make it easier for students to relate to library staff. Johnson enjoys that high school students are able to pursue their own interests on their own time and in their own ways, compared to younger students from elementary or junior high schools. Of course, not everything can be sunshine and rainbows, so I asked Johnson what was challenging about her work. She shared that the expectations and relation to school staff, the disconnect between sciences and humanities, constant changes, difficulty creating programs, and tedious processing were of the most boring or more frustrating areas of her work. On expectations and relations, teachers and administration may have expectations for new library staff based off of their relationships with previous library staff. Teachers in particular do not have enough time to explain or reach out to library staff about these expectations, so it can be challenging to find out what their needs are. As the sciences and humanities disconnect compared to other high schools in the district, Johnson revealed that there is a disconnect between the humanities and science in her library in particular. The sciences are on the above floor, and since she is stationary, she does not have the ability to interact with this department as often. Additionally, Johnson was instructed to focus on supporting the humanities department, so dependent on the school's expectations. On changes, Johnson warned not to feel too comfortable with any setup or circumstance, as things can change from day to day. She gave an example of when the library's computer lab was closed to make room for other activities, without any real warning. As for programming, since the high school students have a more fluid schedule compared to elementary or junior high, with different spares and lunch hours, creating accessible programs can be an obstacle. The last question I asked Johnson were what skills she felt made her successful in the school library setting. She shared the problem solving, efficiency, creativity, initiative, self discipline, and ability to connect to other districts made her successful in the library field. She further explained each of these points. In terms of problem solving, in this position, one can be put on the spot to solve unexpected problems. So it is important to stay calm and figure out a solution. In terms of efficiency, in the case of teachers, some will have patience while others will not. Assisting them quickly makes them happy and means the library is working. In terms of creativity, particularly creativity in problem solving is important. Since Johnson is the only one in this department, she is sometimes expected to solve issues that are not part of her education or training, such as fixing technological issues. She gave the example of having to fix a printer despite not having a technical background. In terms of showing initiative, it's important to reach out first to staff and be social. This will help others understand the importance of the library in the school and what it can do for staff and students. In terms of self-discipline, since this is the only position in the library and there are a few guidelines to how it should be done, Johnson emphasized the importance of self-discipline and staying on track. She was essentially thrown into her position. As for contact with other districts, it's important to arrange meetings with staff in surrounding districts to ensure that the library is on the same page with libraries of a similar size. Also, it is a good way to get ideas for solutions, layouts, and other ideas. Here are some of my final thoughts on the school library environment, the interview, and the project as a whole. I feel the school library fosters the growth, development, and education of students while assisting those who dedicate their lives to that pursuit. School libraries help students at a critical stage in their development. I believe that it is an honor to help staff and students alike reach their goals for intellectual and personal development of young people. Speaking with Ms. Johnson put these ideals into a new perspective, and the work seems exciting for its development and challenges as well as the personal rewards. Thank you for listening to my presentation and have a great day.